Welcome and good evening. I am Mama Rita. This evening, I am super excited. Breakthrough the Taboo Talk has a fun spin and twist tonight. I have a very, very, very special guest. I am super excited because we have the most amazing conversations, and it's all about breaking through taboo talk. So, what better guest to have than have a mother-in-law ask her daughter-in-law to come talk about breaking through taboo talk? Or, as my lovely daughter-in-law, Rebecca Boccuzzi, will say, it's about being brutally honest. And she and my son, Francesco, we're going to invite you in to see some insight about how we feel about being brutally honest, breaking through the taboo talk, but getting real and being family. So be part of our family. We want you to be part of our family, hear our conversations, enjoy, have fun with it all, and just, I'm going to say, flourish and feel fabulous around new conversations. I'm going to welcome Becca in. I want to thank you again for joining us this evening. Becca.
Hi.
Good morning. Good morning. Good evening. Not morning.
No, Rita. Is that a glass of wine behind you?
Yeah. I didn't drink it. Like, nice of you to notice. Nice of you to point it out. Where is it? That's my stronger, wiser, be perfect. Yeah, anything's possible after a glass of wine. Don't we know that's true?
Yes. Good evening.
Say that again.
Good evening.
Good evening. We'll start over again.
I said that very British. I don't know why. I feel proper tonight.
Because we're having fun and being live in front of everyone. Just to be open, authentic, share. And so I wanted to speak to you a little bit about brutal honesty, right? And how'd that all come about?
Oh, hilariously. Like anything that happens with my dear husband, your son, and myself, we have been trapped together we're going on a year. Mm-hmm. And I do love your husband. I want to preface this by saying
that my husband or your husband?
Oh, now it's my turn to slip. Good. Or even. I've been trapped with your son I don't want to say trapped. That's a terrible way of saying it.
I'm going to ask about that.
But we've been together in the same apartment. Now we're in a 2-bedroom, but we used to be in a 1-bedroom, and that was even tougher. And we have been running out of things to talk about. So we've started sharing our opinions on basically anything. Because we can't stop talking. That's not the solution. We're going to continue talking about whatever and wherever our opinions come about. And we're very opinionated people.
That might not have anything to be like with being Italian or Irish or any of that, right?
It has nothing to do with that. Not at all.
Okay.
So the original idea was to write a book. And that's still something that could be a possibility. But in, today's society, people listen to podcasts on their way to and from work. They listen to them while they're working out. Why not be one of the things that they're listening to? And why not be one of the 10 million people that are doing podcasts these days? It's a little embarrassing, but, at least I can make fun of myself. Self-deprecation is cool. So
I don't know about that.
Oh, it certainly is. And I'll argue that point.
Okay.
Unless it gets to the point where you're like not liking yourself, then it's not a good thing, obviously.
Okay. There we go. Clarity. That's what, being brutally honest and, clearing out and breaking through taboo talk is, getting to those points, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So continue on. So
the idea behind the podcast is it's not just brutal honesty. It's talking about these everyday, social situations, home life situations, family life situations that the everyday person will encounter, no matter what their socioeconomic status is, no matter, I've watched enough Real Housewives to know wealthy people have issues too. I'm just saying.
Really?
I
I'm
make
so
my bed right
surprised. I'm so surprised. Is that where, let's see, It's Not All About You came about from as one of your programs?
that and ourselves. I mean, we fall into this trap. We like to talk. We like to, make sure that we have enough space for ourselves because we just have so freaking much to say. But in doing that, we don't always remember to hold space for other people, especially people that are not as boisterous as we are.
Yeah.
And don't know how to, where do I pipe in? It's familiar to me because I come from an introverted perspective. I know that's kind of surprising, but in the past 6 or 7 years, especially since college, I've really come out of my shell. High school and middle school and elementary school, not so much. I didn't know how to take space. So it's about being able to take space if you are that introverted person, but also give space if you're extroverted.
So being mindful for
Yes.
the extroverted person, mindfulness is super, super important, definitely. Because, and I'm going to say, growing up in America, but also Italy, one of the things that's very common as Becca was getting accustomed to our family, our dynamics, if I may share, right? It wasn't love at first sight, and it was we had to get used to one another's and one another and hold space.
You didn't love me right away?
Oh, I loved you right away.
Oh God, this is awkward.
Look at you. But I think that there were times, or I should say, and I think there were times that it wasn't always comfortable for you, right? And
I think for either side, because you were also getting to know me.
Right? And so we were trying to figure out each of our dynamics and then make sure that we're holding space for one another because we do love one another.
Right.
Right. And we cared enough to take time to let each of us grow and get accustomed so that this way, and I'm going to say specifically because even Angelo, I'll explain, my other son, when we went to Italy, as is custom, Italians, we talk a lot. We have a lot to say. I know a lot of people in the world do. This might be something Italians do very well, like inventing awesome cars and clothing. They maybe do talking and conversations really amazingly. So amazingly that multiple conversations can be going on at the very same time. And you could be jumping from one to the other and talking to somebody and answer one conversation and then answer another conversation, bounce back to the other person. Now, if you're with somebody that's not used to that, like in the beginning, you and Angelo, who actually got a migraine when we went to Italy to meet our family after one such, in the beginning when we first went there, he had to go lay down and take a nap. And I'm going to say, in their culture, they had no understanding of really why does he have a headache from this? It's no big deal. Well, I'm going to say they're very well practiced. So one of the things that being here and being raised here and learning and still learning and growing, because I grew up having conversations like that and didn't know that there was anything different.
Right.
Like say focus. So go ahead. So I learned a lot from you.
It also symbolizes, I understand it now. And here's what I understand it as. It's a zest for life. You want to share that with somebody. And in the example that you just shared, you went to Italy. These people haven't seen you I don't know how long it had been since you'd been to Italy. Frankie shared the skunk story. That's pretty much all I know. That happened when he was a child. So I'm just presuming it's been a long time since you've been to Italy, and these people are excited to see you. They want to share everything. And with us, we share verbally. Right. That's how we share our lives. And that's why I thought that a podcast would be appropriate for Francesco and me, because it's what we get excited about. It's not just our opinions, but it's things that we're passionate about. We're passionate about talking to people. And that's something that I did assimilate to. And you see, I'm jumping from conversation to conversation, and
see it.
Yeah, sometimes it's not as smooth, but I am getting used to it.
Sometimes it's not as smooth for me either. that never changes. But the one commonality is, as long as we're holding space for one another and coming back and being mindful, really you can hold space for pretty much any conversation, right? But again, it can't be one-sided, dominated. That's kind of like driving a car that has only two wheels on one side. Well, if the other two wheels aren't there, the car isn't going anywhere very far, right?
It's like paddle boating. You can't just paddle on one side.
Uh-huh.
You
Right.
have to paddle on the other side.
That's an even better example. I love that. I love that example. And I know that I'm going to say, so you shared with me a little bit about the where you got the ideas from, like the housewives. But I have a question because, right? But these, what, I think that there could be learning and education from anything that we watch if we choose to, which I thought was super cool, because I'm going to say I probably would have wrote off not watching the drama of the housewives to even know, but you took it to a whole new level, which I love because it's very, very insightful. I'm going to say, what do you think about the skills that you have of being a special education teacher for, elementary school children? How do you think that correlates or blends? What are your thoughts on that?
It transfers to everything. It helps me understand. There are many layers to being a special education teacher. Let me start there. It's not just the teaching the students and helping them bridge their gaps with their disabilities, helping them assimilate to education. It's not even all about the added paperwork that these teachers have, which is tremendous. And it can be very overwhelming, but it's also about, you almost work as a social worker. You have to help the parents understand the disability. I've talked parents through their own social work situations. I have talked them through trauma. We have discussed poverty. We have discussed lack of access. And being able to hold space for these people, it's taught me a couple of things. It's taught me how to understand people. It has taught me to understand that not everything is black and white, and this angry parent is not just angry for no reason. This child is not acting out for no reason. It also teaches me that we have to look at the bigger picture for a lot of these things. We have to look at why people have the beliefs that they do. Look at culture. Look at socioeconomic status. Look at background. Look at all of these things. And I try to transfer that into my everyday life, especially now with the pandemic.
Yeah. And I can imagine, you talked about the financial strife part of it and the impact that can have. I mean, layered on top of everything that they're already going through, that they have to deal with. So lessons from that, they're being transferred to the show as well, right? As well as what do I want to call it? the housewives insight. And then really taking a step back, and I'm going to say what I love about what you're doing is it's these lessons, but you're also having fun.
Yeah. And what I notice in talking about any topic is that there are two general themes. One theme is if things come out of goodness, if things are not coming out of goodness, I should say, if things are not coming out of goodness, then you should probably be avoiding them. Lead your life asking what's the most loving thing to do. And you can find that in many situations, if you're answering that question, you're not going to go wrong.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I've learned is communication's a biggie. Communication is a biggie. I can't even tell you how many of these situations, not just in Real Housewives, although they are wonderful and best, but in my own life, in the kids' lives, how many sticky situations can be avoided if we just communicated?
Right. Yeah.
It's amazing.
And it's amazing. I think, for me, working in the arena where we work on mindset and mind shifts around money, it's not just about money. It's about the relationships that
Right.
we're all having together. I put sticky note reminders. I mean, I don't know if you're going to be able to read them, but like things like, is there a better
Aw.
way? How am I being? Uh, am I reaching out in love? So that being a key word. And I love creating that mindset, but it's a practice. It's something that's a habit that you end up acting upon. And it can be, like you said, it could be something that's coming from the depths of love, or it's not. I mean, really, to me, it's a little bit black and white. It's either coming from a point in life you're being loving or you're not being loving. And how can you serve? And I think it's amazing that you're doing this. I like some of the titles that's why I wanted to share it, and I had one up. It's not all about you. It wasn't me saying that. It wasn't all about Becca, by the way. And another one is, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
We talked about jokes, which goes back to the whole loving thing. We talked about, if you can even offend one person with your joke, just avoid it. I mean, let's be honest. The sex jokes, the rape, the race jokes, not cute anymore. I mean, come on. We're in 2021. If you can offend at least one person, just don't do it. That's all.
I love that.
We're not asking for much.
So what are some of the other topics that you're doing or that are coming about, or what's going on next?
So we have a couple that are coming up. One of the topics that we have, and this one is a biggie, especially for me because I never ever want to admit that I'm wrong, is how to take responsibility and admit that you're wrong, and basically how much it's not just for you, it's about how to set the other person free and relieve them of whatever burden they're carrying, which, not a lot of people get that release of getting an apology. Mm-hmm. They have to forgive without it. So that's kind of what we talk about. And obviously it pertains a lot to my marriage and talking about the issues that we've gone through together. I'm not the best at apologizing, but I am working on it. I'm working on it a lot. At least I have the awareness that it is an issue.
And we just talked about I like to put little words together, and you started with awareness, right? And then awareness for the situation, and then awareness of the attitude that you're having towards it, the perspective that's coming about. And where did the perspective come from? All of us have had childhood histories. Well, I think the majority of us have had something that from a child's perspective was traumatic for us. I think that's a high population of people. And how does that come into play? And then acknowledging that you have that perspective and that there might be another one possible. Right. And then making it in alignment, and I'm going to say in alignment for what you said, that it's coming from a place of being loving.
Yes.
So when it's aligned with your core values, love being, I'm going to say one at the top of one of my core values, and I'm going to say most of the people that I hang out with, and I like hanging out with people who have the same core values, because then we lift one another up and we can learn from one another. And so interesting that you're even saying about responsibility. So there's a couple things that I want to just share about it. One, there's a passage in the scriptural passage that says, "Spare the rod and spoil the child."
Yes.
And automatically I'm doing this. That's what my dad used to say. You're going to get this. This was the rod, right? Corporal punishment. But it isn't always corporal punishment. But I came up with a different design for what a rod meant in that case. And one of them is being responsible. That's the R, respectfully responsible. The O, this might be a tougher one. I think I discussed this with either Francesco or Angelo, my sons. The O stands for obedience, which I'm going to say younger generations as a whole, we go through rebellious phases, but you could be a rebel at 40, but obedience to what, right? What is going to create order in your life? So I like to say order if somebody doesn't want obedience. And the D is to be disciplined in it, because that will get you exactly what you want. And so I always learning from coaches and leaders. So currently I'm taking a leadership course where we were doing vision to breakthrough, all the layers that we get to go through. The first thing was taking responsibility and having healing conversations with people. And so when you have, and you talked about forgiveness, goes such a long way, right? If you're taking responsibility and you're being forgiving, you're actually creating a release for yourself. And so, say you're having a healing conversation, it might go something like, you know, I recognize that I needed to take responsibility for being a better mother-in-law. Let's just put it that way. We'll start with that. That could always be good. And I am committed to being the most awesome, bestest, audacious mother-in-law ever. Now, you have a choice of how you get to react. Regardless of whatever you choose, I'm going to keep my responsibility. I'm going to keep my word, because words are super powerful. We saw that in our beginning commercial about words equal power. Words have the power to kill or build up. And if we're coming from a point of love and we're going to take the responsibility, even if the other person, you may think the other person's perspective is completely off, you be responsible for you, your actions, your attitudes. And I'm going to be responsible for my attitude. I'm going to be responsible for being a better person. And I'm committed to doing whatever. And then you let go. You just no worry about what that end result outcome is. You're done. Forgiveness holds you bound. Have you ever had a time, and have you ever had a time where you held on to something and you thought about it, and then you went and told somebody, you know what, I forgive you for that? And so one of two things are going to happen. So when you start out a forgiveness conversation with, I forgive you, and the person doesn't believe they've done anything wrong, you just created a very antagonistic situation, very defensive. That's why it's like, hey, I recognize that what I'm responsible for, whatever piece. So have you also ever experienced where you've gone to say, hey, I forgive you for this. Like, I experienced this and I forgive you for this experience that I had with you. And the person goes, what are you talking about? Huh?
I actually can't say that that's ever happened to me, and I think for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is that I would rather pretend that something didn't happen, like the other person, instead of acknowledging it. And the other thing is that I have a pattern of internalizing anger more than actually releasing any sort of emotion that's negative, because I don't want to hurt anybody. And that's my pattern.
Yeah.
But I do understand what you're saying.
You know what? I love the fact that you just said that you recognized your pattern. You know you. So this is an acknowledgement. It's an awareness, and things don't. So I want you to think about one thing. This is just so, because I'm just thinking about it on the cuff. You said you never want to hurt anybody. So is it hurting you when you hold that in?
Oh, absolutely.
So remember, your first words was, I never want to hurt anybody. And who are we supposed to take care of first? Have you ever heard of the oxygen mask story?
Oh, yes.
Plenty of times. So you know what, Becca, this is such a good example because it so resonates with me, because I say those words. I never want to hurt anybody. And somebody said to me, but aren't you hurting yourself? Which does a couple of things. So this is something that I learned. It shows people, it releases boundaries and models to people that it's okay for me to feel hurt, which then actually allows them to do that if they so choose to. So we need to be more mindful. And for a lot of women, it's a deserving, a self-worth. Whatever the story is, I'm not smart enough, I'm not worthy. And coming through these things so that we can then be stronger and have really, I'm going to say, courageous conversations like we're having tonight.
Yes.
That's one thing that I have to applaud you on, because when you do speak up about things, they're super amazing. And and I always see a mindfulness around when you are doing it, because you don't want to hurt somebody, but inside you're hurting.
Yes, I think balance that's another theme. Balance.
Yep.
That you can have the best of everything, and even releasing things. This is getting a little deeper than we get in the podcast, but I'm going with it. I mean, listen, the podcast, especially now that we're starting out, we're looking at things a little more whimsically. We're going through them with a sense of humor, because that's how we that's how we go through things with our relationships. And then I think we have things that we want to discuss that are more vulnerable, but when the time is appropriate, we'll get there.
Yep. And that's it. It's all about your timing and getting it done. And sometimes it may feel very vulnerable. I'm going to say there's strength in that. It takes a lot of courage. And so, for those of you that don't know, courage means to be brave. You could be scared shitless, but you do it anyways. So you're being brave and stepping out. And most leaders, if you ask them, they're scared to death, but they just do it anyways. And it's a point of growth. And so that's the beautiful insight that I've seen, that you're authentic, that you're genuine, that you're real, that you're both are sharing, you're caring, and you're opening up a whole world to many, many people that really, I think, will help in a fun, light way, not so heavy, kind of like we got a little heavy, but lighten it up. Right? And have a little bit of fun with it.
Because that's what the world is. It's either a comedy or a tragedy. It's whatever you want it to be. And as far as the vulnerability goes, I mean, my own circle, everyone in my circle knows how much of a hot mess I am. Why not let the world know how much of a hot mess I am? Listen.
And it's okay.
I'd like to think emphasis on the hot, but it depends on the day. Anyway.
Yeah. It depends who you're talking to. And honestly, you know what? You say that, and I think that all of us, as we go through life, have a point of being hot messes, and it's okay, as long as we get through the mess to get to the other side, which could be success. And when I say success, don't you like that rhyme? Don't you like how I got that in there? So from your mess to your success.
I was picturing a leprechaun at the end of a rainbow. We're almost at St. Patty's Day, and my grandmother is planning this big Irish celebration. So, I mean, not big.
Yeah.
I mean, family.
Yes, got it. But success is what you define it to be, and you said the big word. So choose, choice, your choice. You get to decide. We hope that you decide to check out Brutal Honesty by the Boccuzzis on Instagram. We hope that you join us for Taboo Talk to have more family talk with us. If you want to have different types of talks, what do you want to talk about? What's a taboo topic? I have a few. I created lists, like who's talking about their student debt? Who wants anybody to know how big their student debt is? I mean, a lot of this comes around different money issues, so as well as life topics. So I just want to say thank you. Is there any last closing things that you wanted to share as we part ways? We're already finished. I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either. My God, the gift of gab. Anyway. Well, I appreciate you being here, and I like that we have the type of relationship where we can talk about these things, and that's very heartwarming as a daughter-in-law to be able to have. And if anybody listening is interested in some brutal honesty, you can follow us at BH Boccuzzi on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And we are on wherever you get your live streams for your podcasts. We are on Spotify, Apple, and a bunch of others.
Wow, amazing job. I'm so impressed. I can't wait to see more. Can't wait to laugh more with you and laugh with everyone and enjoy our lives so that we can all have fun and flourish together. So this is Mama Rita saying ciao for now and good night. And thank you, Becca. Love you.
I love you too. Thank you.